We got St. Louis, Boston, 3-4 on the rotation. Boston minus 135 home favorite. The total 5.5 here, heavily shaded to the under, about minus 130 here in this game. And when you look at this Bruins team, that's played pretty good defensive hockey during this extended stretch of time where they've played pretty good. But you got to wonder about where they are offensively without Brad Marchand. We saw it the other night. Now that he's serving his 5-game suspension, we saw it the other night in the game against Anaheim. Just not clinical enough in terms of finishing. They did fire 31 shots on net, but only scoring 1 goal, 3-1 loss. Again, a good game for me with Anaheim. I took them in that game. A good spot, I thought. I thought Boston could be thrown off a little bit by the All-Star break. A 5-game winning streak going into that break. The Marchand suspension hanging over their heads. No Charlie McAvoy either on the blue line, which I think hurts them a little bit. And as a result, we saw a Boston team that just wasn't clicking. Just did not have things going in that game against Anaheim. Now the question is, can you trust them to bounce back? They have been pretty good off a loss, but I'm telling you what, I'm not sure this is the night that they bounce back. We got a St. Louis team coming in here that really, to be honest, has played really good since getting Jaden Schwartz back. It's made all the difference in the world. You look at St. Louis's record this season with Schwartz, without Schwartz, big difference. He's been that important to this St. Louis Blues team. They've also found, obviously, something very, very good in net right now with the way Carter Hutton's been playing. Give him credit. He's clearly wrestled that starting job away from Jake Allen at the moment. He's deserved to wrestle that job away from him. He's been great. Another good, solid performance from him the other night against Montreal. St. Louis has won 5 of their last 6 games playing good. You talk about also in terms of a series history where things have gone quite well for St. Louis. They have. They've played very well against Boston as of late, particularly here at TD Garden. St. Louis, last 9 trips to Boston, they're 8-1. Pretty good stuff from the St. Louis Blues going into this game. I'm actually inclined to take St. Louis here, plus the price. I mean, I think Boston, again, we saw that All-Star break really throw them off. I think they miss, obviously, the scoring prowess of Brad Marchand. St. Louis has really had a good time of it winning in Boston over the years. So, yeah, I'll try my luck again going against this Boston team. Plus 118 is what you can get with St. Louis here in this game. That's the side I'm going to go with here in this matchup. We've also got Dana involved with the Blues and the Bees tonight. The Blues and the Bees and the flowers and the trees. That was an old song from the 60s, but I'm dating everybody mentioning that. Dana, how are you this morning? St. Louis, Boston, take it away.
I'm doing awesome. Yeah, hey, thanks for giving me the floor. You're right about the past and the history between these two teams, where the St. Louis Blues have completely dominated the Boston Bruins. But again, you know that being in separate conferences, that means that you have to go back 4.5 years. So I'm not sure how much relevancy that has towards tonight. But of course, there does at some point develop a culture where one team just has another team's number. I mean, look how many years maybe up until this year, and even the year that the Bruins won the Stanley Cup, the Montreal Canadiens certainly had Boston's number and have had Boston's number for at least 2 decades. So that could obviously that could go on for a long time. But the thing is with this game, and guys, that I talk about this all the time, that when you have some moving parts going on, and you're right about this, Ian. The Ducks were right for getting the job done the other night. But when you have some moving parts going on, I don't always trust the team the first night. And we know that the Brad Marchand injury happened. We also know that the McAvoy injury happened, or the irregular heartbeat that he's dealing with now. So you got a lot of moving parts. But tonight is kind of the night where that kind of stops. And one thing that could be that is a positive for Boston is the fact that, yeah, that 18-game streak is now out the window. And if I'm Bruce Cassidy, that's kind of one of the kind of something I'm is a positive. Maybe the loss is a positive. I mean, you go back to practice and coaches can do what they do best, and that's kind of nitpick about what a team isn't doing. And I think that that's going to relax this team. I think that now that Chara and Carlo have played a game back together, and don't forget too. I mean, I know a lot of people, maybe overemphasize the McAvoy injury because obviously he plays such a huge role on the blue line, but Carlo and Chara had played together for most of last year until actually McAvoy showed up very late in the season, or I think the beginning of the playoffs he showed up. So, don't overemphasize the fact that he's out of the lineup, because Chara and Carlos certainly have played together before. Um, One thing about St. Louis is I know that I I always think, and I don't know how you guys feel, but I always feel like they should take Tarasenko and put him back on that, or put him back on the second line to create more scoring. I think they're really top heavy, and although you guys know that I love St. Louis, and I think, right now today, if I had to say, okay, who's the team in the West that I think is going to be the team to beat, it certainly would be St. Louis, because I think they match up well against the Golden Knights, and they've proven that twice. But I just would like to see them get a little bit more balanced scoring. I think they're a little top heavy. And as you mentioned, Ian, the Bruins still had no problem putting pucks on the net, although a lot of those pucks were to the perimeter. And I did wanted to touch on this. I know I'm rambling, but again, when we're talking about shots on goal, for me, which is a pretty important a number when handicapping, but it's also important to look at those shot charts. And most of Boston's action was from outside of the perimeter, which most NHL goaltenders will not have a problem with. So in closing on this though, I think Boston bounces back at home in this one. I know everybody in the world's on St. Louis, which makes me feel good. So I'll take the Bruins in this one.
Boston has been pretty good off a loss lately. They have been. They've been very good in that role, and that's the role they're in here. But you know me, I'm a current form with a really good hockey team at plus money. I can't resist. So
Yep,
that's why
I
I'm on.
agree.
Yep, that's why I'm on St. Louis. But yeah,
Well,
it's a
I mean,
very good
listen,
hockey. Yep.
Ian, anytime the Blues are involved, you're always going to be able to make a case. And, I only need Boston to be good for one game. I think St. Louis or St. Louis bad for one game. I think St. Louis is going to go extremely deep into the postseason. I just think Boston's going to have their ducks in a row, and I think they're going to have more of a focused effort after the loss to the Ducks. And I think they have that weight of the 18-game streak off their back.
Yeah, and in case you're living in a shell and not aware of it, the 18-game streak that Dana was mentioning with Boston's an 18-game point streak they had going. They had a 14-0-4 record going, where they hadn't suffered a regulation loss in 18 games, and that finally was snapped the other night with that game against Anaheim. By the way, if you're into the Corsi numbers, Boston's tied for number one in the NHL with that. If you follow that, that's an advanced metric. The Corsi's, again, hockey's been behind the curve in advanced metrics, advanced stats compared to other sports like baseball specifically. But what it is, it's a statistic that measures shots on goal, missed shots on goal, and blocked shot attempts toward the opposition net minus the shot attempts directed at their own net. So that's basically what you're looking at with that statistic. And Boston is leading the league in that regard. So that's a positive when you're up there. But the thing is, you got to take that stat with a grain of salt. And that's why I don't hang my hat on the advanced metric numbers, because you got Carolina right up there in the Corsi number two, and they're not having a very good season so far. I mean, they're mediocre at best. So again, that is a statistic that you got to be able to take with a grain of salt. But Boston being up there, it's still good to be up there as one of the better Corsi teams in the NHL, but it's not a stat that you just want to completely hang your hat on when you're handicapping these games night in and night out.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to our channel. Now, we've put a lot of work into producing all these free videos, so please help us out and keep all our content free for you forever by simply liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Now, not to mention, a visit to our industry-leading website will warm the hearts of all our SBR employees, especially myself. Now, the links are over there to the left, so do check those out. Thanks for watching.